The mayor has not favored or encouraged robust public process. How would you change this? And the other one is, if elected, how will you promote more transparency in city government?
Is there some way we could facilitate the microphone thing? Maybe leave it here. Sure. How's that? I've actually been studying this question of public process for some time. I was on the County Planning Commission, and I was the founding chair of the Planning Advisory Committee. I've been to many conferences about planning, and I've edited a book on planning. One of the central problems in planning is to meaningfully involve the public in decisions. It's not just a matter of listening. There is a methodology, and it's complicated. One of the carry-home things I got from some of my reading on this is that it's important when you're dealing with the public to bring them in when policy is first being formulated. What I think we've had a tendency here in latter years is sort of the appearance of public process by having a public hearing the night the council is voting, or many public meetings that are basically marketing presentations. And that presents the illusion of public engagement without the actual return on it. So on council, I would work to involve community members early on, and I actually have a history of doing that from being a commissioner, so I know how to do it.
Thank you. So the concern about public involvement is an important one. I do think that's one of the areas that the current city council has not done a very good job on. We see an example of that with the proposed train station. What came forward was a proposal, here's what we would like to build, here's where we'd like to build it, here's what the funding looks like, and that was kind of where it went. I think we could have avoided a lot of the contention and had both a better product and a better process if that process had started earlier and said, what are our needs for rail transit? How do we move forward with that? What are possible sites? What are the criteria to evaluate them? On the short list of sites, what's good and bad about each? If the Fuller Road site, for example, is parkland, how do we deal with that? Does it need to go to a vote? If it's passed, do we need to find other parkland to offset that lost parkland? So that's an example of how the failure to have a robust public process, I think, both led to an increased contention around the issue, and we lost opportunities to deal with some of the issues that would have come up and surfaced through that public engagement process. My work with Interfaith Council for Peace and Justice, we're a grassroots organization, so we are member-led. Within each of the task forces, my role is as a servant of those activists, those volunteers, those members. So my experience every day is working to say, what is our vision going forward? There are two key challenges that I think city council and city government needs to face with a public involvement process. The first one is casting a broad net for involvement. When I've gone to city council meetings, when I've gone to public involvement processes, I notice that there are essentially two groups that tend to be represented there. One is a group of people who are in some way paid to be there. And when I'm there speaking on behalf of Interfaith Council for Peace and Justice, that's the hat I'm wearing. The other population are people who have tremendous time, tremendous passion, and can really give a lot and show up at 7 o'clock on a Monday night or whenever the meetings are. Yeah. But now both of those voices need to be part of the process. But they're not all of the process. They're not all of the community. So a robust public engagement process tries to figure out how do we involve the people who aren't around the table, who aren't getting all the messages from the city about various planning commission meetings and such. You know, when it's a public, Vivian pointed out some of the problems of just having a public hearing, and even a public hearing doesn't represent the people who are working second shift downtown. Right? So we need to do better at reaching those who have been excluded, who aren't around the table already. The second challenge is that there are multiple sources of information for making a decision. Public involvement is one of them. There's also the involvement of looking in depth at the data and consulting sort of expertise and expert opinion. Vivian's talked about with public involvement there is a methodology. Well, people, including some on city staff, have studied that methodology, studied the details and nuance about planning and such. That expertise needs to be valued and included in the discussion too. So public involvement, public transparency is important. We need to do a better job. We need to include more people, and we need to include all the sources of information necessary to make informed, engaged decisions.
Thank you. Vivian, would you like 1 minute to respond? Okay, then I assume Chuck, you don't need a minute then. The two people who wrote these two questions, the mayor is not in favor or encouraged robust public process. How would you change this? And if elected, how would you promote more transparency in city government? Are you both happy with the answers you've heard? If you'd like to, we have one here. Happy?
I'm happy. I just have a follow-up.
Go ahead. Dorothy?
I wondered...
Hold on 1 minute. We'll get to that.
I can hear.
I can talk really loud.
Then please stand up and talk really loud.
Okay. It's been a long time since I was in the classroom. I was hoping that you all wouldn't mind exploring something that Vivian had mentioned, which is the timing of the public involvement and how that would be managed and how it might be made so that it happened at the beginning, before requests for proposals are sent out. And then Chuck mentioned criteria and how these criteria would be determined. And I didn't know if you had anything or if you all are interested in that, but it struck me as part of the pot.
Vivian, would you like a minute to go into that? And Chuck, you can have it if you'd like.
Well, you put your finger on the most difficult thing, which is how do you reach people and let them know to be involved. And it really depends on the type of issue. If it's something that is going to affect a particular neighborhood, then you have to go look for the people in that neighborhood. You have to seek out all of the connections you can and find them. If it's something that is a broader scale, I think you just have to use a variety of media. You use the email sign up, the public notices, and so forth. It's hard. That's one of the hardest part, is getting by the right people, I mean the appropriate people to the table.
Yeah, I think what I've heard from both of us is an affirmation that early involvement is important. So I think that's an area where we agree. And it depends on the issue too. You need one level and one involvement of early decision making, early engagement for what happens on, say, the old Y lot or public site. It's a different level of involvement for what's the plan for redoing a neighborhood park. The other piece of that, and back to the concern about, my comment about getting people involved, one of the things I've appreciated about the campaign is then the opportunity to talk to people face-to-face at the doorstep. One of the ideas that I would like to be able to do, and I'm hoping that time will permit if elected, is when there are particular neighborhood issues, to be able to continue to do that and say, hey, this is coming up, what do you think? Because otherwise I don't think people are getting the information or getting their voices heard.